The signal came at 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Nathan Cole was sleeping in his quarters aboard the USS Relentless when the alarm pulled him from his dreams. He was on his feet before he was fully awake. A habit built from 30 years of military service. His body knew what the alarm meant before his brain did. Something had happened. Something big. He dressed quickly and made his way to the bridge. The corridors of the Relentless were alive with activity. Crew members ran to their stations. Voices called out orders and confirmations. The ship hummed with nervous energy. When Cole stepped onto the bridge, his senior staff was already assembled. Lieutenant Amy Harris sat at the communications console, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced speed. Commander Daniel Wright stood near the main display, his face tight with concern. "Report," Cole said. Amy turned to face him. She was young, barely 30. But she was the best communications officer in the fleet. "Sir, we received a transmission approximately 14 minutes ago. It came from beyond the Orion Spur." Cole raised an eyebrow. Humanity had only begun exploring that region of space. There were no human ships out there, no colonies, no outposts. Source? Unknown, sir. But it is definitely not human. The bridge fell silent. Every person present understood what that meant. First, contact. After 200 years of space travel, humanity had finally received a message from another intelligent species. "Play it," Cole ordered. Amy pressed a button, and the speakers crackled to life. The voice that emerged was high-pitched and desperate. It spoke in a language no one understood, but the emotion behind it was clear. Fear, panic, desperation. Then the translation software kicked in, converting the alien words into English. "Please. Anyone who can hear this. We are the Valorian Collective. Our world is dying. The Kreth have come. They destroy everything. Our ships are gone. Our defenses are broken. We cannot fight them. We cannot run. Please. We have heard stories of your kind. The beings from the death world. The ones who survive anything. Please help us. We will give you anything. We will do anything. Just please." The message ended. The bridge remained silent. Cole stood very still. His mind processed what he had just heard. Another species. An attack. A plea for help. And something else. Something that caught his attention. Death world. He knew what that meant. Earth was classified as a death world by galactic standards. High gravity. Extreme temperature variations. A corrosive oxygen atmosphere. Dangerous levels of radiation from the sun. Predators everywhere. Diseases that could kill in hours. Natural disasters that could wipe out entire populations. By all logic, intelligent life should not have evolved on Earth. But it had. Humanity had clawed its way up from the mud and the blood and the chaos. They had survived everything their planet had thrown at them. And now, apparently, the galaxy knew about them. "Sir," Daniel said quietly, "what do we do?" Cole looked at his executive officer. Daniel was a good man. Loyal. Smart. Cautious. He would make an excellent admiral someday. "We respond," Cole said. "Sir, with respect, we have no idea what we are walking into. We do not know who the Valorians are. We do not know who the Kreth are. This could be a trap." "It could be," Cole agreed, "but it could also be exactly what it sounds like. People in trouble. Asking for help. They are not people, sir. They are aliens." Cole smiled slightly. "They are people, Commander. Maybe not human, but people. And they are scared. And they are dying. And they asked us for help." He turned to face the main display. The star chart showed the location of the signal. It was far. Very far. The fleet would need to travel through uncharted space for weeks to reach it. "Contact Earth Command," Cole ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them I am taking the first contact fleet to investigate." Amy nodded and began transmitting. Captain Laura Bennett arrived on the bridge a few minutes later. She commanded the carrier, USS Horizon, the second largest ship in the fleet. She was a tall woman, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "I heard the message," she said. "You are really going to do this?" "Yes. We could be starting a war, Nathan. A war with a species we know nothing about." "We could be ending one," Cole replied. "Or at least helping people survive one." Laura studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Fine. The Horizon is with you. But I want it on record that I think this is insane." Noted. Over the next 6 hours, the fleet prepared for departure. The USS Relentless led the formation, followed by the Horizon and 12 other warships, 2,000 crew members, hundreds of fighters, enough firepower to level a small moon. Cole stood on the bridge and watched as the stars stretched into lines. The hyperdrive engaged, and the fleet vanished from known space. During the journey, Cole spent hours reviewing everything humanity knew about the galaxy. It was not much. Humanity had only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. They had explored a tiny fraction of the Milky Way. They had found evidence of other civilizations, abandoned stations, and ancient ruins. But they had never made direct contact. Until now, the stories about Deathworlds fascinated him. According to the fragments of information they had gathered, most intelligent species evolved on peaceful planets. Low gravity, stable climates, few predators. Life was easy, so intelligence developed slowly, gradually, without the pressure of constant survival. Earth was different. Earth was hell, and humanity was the thing that had crawled out of it. Cole wondered what the Valorians would think when they saw humans for the first time. Would they be grateful? Or would they realize they had invited something far more dangerous than the Creeth into their home? 3 weeks later, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace, near Selith Prime. What they found made Cole's blood run cold. The planet was surrounded by debris. Shattered stations. Broken ships. Bodies floating in the void. The Creeth had been thorough in their destruction. But the planet itself was still there. Still alive. Still fighting. The shuttles descended through the atmosphere of Selith Prime. Admiral Cole watched through the viewport as the planet revealed itself. Green forests, blue oceans, white clouds. It looked peaceful from orbit. But he knew better. Down there, people were dying. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Price led the diplomatic team. He was a calm man with a quiet voice and patient eyes. He had spent his career studying alien cultures, preparing for a moment like this. Now that the moment had arrived, he felt strangely ready. The shuttle landed in what remained of a city. Buildings had collapsed. Fires burned in the distance. The air smelled like smoke and something else. Something chemical. Something wrong. Kevin stepped out first. His boots touched alien soil for the first time in human history. He took a breath and looked around. They were waiting for him. The Valorians were small, very small. The tallest among them barely reached Kevin's chest. Their bodies were thin, almost fragile-looking. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were enormous, taking up nearly half of their faces. They had 4 arms instead of 2, each one ending in delicate fingers. They looked terrified. Kevin understood immediately. To these beings, he must have looked like a monster. He was twice their height. His body was thick with muscle built to fight the crushing gravity of Earth. His eyes were small and forward-facing. The eyes of a predator. When he moved with the controlled power of something designed to kill. He knelt down slowly. He made himself smaller, less threatening. "I am Kevin Price," he said. "We received your message. We are here to help." The Valorians did not move at first. They stared at him with those huge eyes. Then, one of them stepped forward. It wore robes of silver and gold. It must have been someone important. "I am Mireth," the being said. Its voice was soft, almost musical. "I am the Chancellor of the Valorian Collective. You are?" Human? Yes. From the Death World? Kevin paused. He had never thought of Earth that way, but he supposed it was accurate. Yes. From Earth. Mirith looked at him for a long time. Then it looked at the other humans behind Kevin. Marines in combat armor. Medics carrying equipment. Engineers ready to repair whatever needed repairing. All of them tall. All of them strong. All of them shaped by a world that tried to kill everything on it. You came, Mirith said. There was wonder in its voice. And fear. We did not believe you would come. We thought you would ignore us. Or worse. Worse? The stories say Deathworlders are violent. Savage. That you kill without reason. That you cannot be trusted. Kevin smiled. He tried to make it gentle, but he knew his teeth showed. Humans smiled with their teeth. Most species found that disturbing. We can be violent, he admitted. But we do not kill without reason. And we came because you asked for help. Where I come from, when someone asks for help, you give it. Mirith seemed confused by this. But we are strangers. We are not your kind. Why would you risk your lives for us? Kevin did not have a good answer for that. It was just how humans were. They formed bonds quickly. They protected those who could not protect themselves. It was instinct. Something carved into their nature by millions of years of survival. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. While Kevin spoke with the Valorians, Ensign Megan Torres was aboard the Relentless, studying the sensor data. She was young, barely 25, but she had a gift for pattern recognition. She could look at a screen full of numbers and see things others missed. Right now, she did not like what she was seeing. Commander Wright, she called out. You need to see this. Daniel walked over to her station. What is it? The Kreeth fleet. They left 3 weeks ago, but they did not go far. They are regrouping at a staging point about 2 light years from here. How many ships? Megan swallowed. 112. Our fleet has 14. Daniel's face went pale. Those were not good odds. Those were not even close to good odds. Do we know when they will return? Based on their movement patterns, I estimate 72 hours. Maybe less. 72 hours. 3 days, to prepare for a fight they could not win. Daniel turned and walked toward the Admiral's ready room. Cole needed to know about this immediately. On the surface, Kevin was getting a better understanding of the situation. The Valorians had no military to speak of. They had ships, but they were built for exploration and trade, not war. When the Kreeth arrived, they had been completely unprepared. We are a peaceful species, Mirith explained. We have never needed weapons. Our world is gentle. Our evolution was gentle. We did not fight our way to intelligence the way your kind did. Kevin nodded. He had suspected as much. The Valorians came from a paradise world. Low gravity. Perfect climate. No predators. No natural disasters. Life had been easy for them. They had never learned to fight because they had never needed to. Humans were different. Humans had been fighting since the day they crawled out of the primordial ooze. They fought animals. They fought nature. They fought each other. And through all that fighting, they had become something that the galaxy had never seen before. The Kreeth, Kevin said. Tell me about them. Mirath's large eyes filled with something that looked like despair. They are conquerors. They move from system to system, taking what they want, destroying what they do not need. They have been doing this for thousands of years. Hundreds of species have fallen to them. No one has ever stopped them. Has anyone ever tried? Some have. They all failed. The Kreeth are strong. They are numerous. And they are cruel. They do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They simply destroy. Kevin absorbed this information. An ancient empire of conquerors. A galaxy full of peaceful species who had never learned to fight back. And somewhere out there, A fleet of 100 ships, preparing to return and finish what it started. He understood now why the Valorians had called for help. They had heard the stories about humans, the monsters from the Death World. They were so desperate that they had called for monsters to save them. Chancellor, Kevin said, I need to be honest with you. Our fleet is small, much smaller than theirs. We cannot guarantee victory. Mirith looked at him. But you will fight? Yes. Even knowing you might lose? Yes. Why? Kevin thought about the question. He thought about Earth, about all the wars humanity had fought, about all the times they had faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. It was not always smart. It was not always logical. But it was human. Because sometimes, he said, fighting is all you can do. And if you have to lose, you might as well lose fighting. Mirith was quiet for a moment. Then it did something unexpected. It reached out, with one of its delicate hands, and touched Kevin's arm. You are not what I expected, it said. The stories made you sound like beasts. But you are kind. Kevin laughed softly. We can be both. That is the thing about humans. We, the Kreeth, came early. Admiral Cole was in his ready room when the alarm sounded. He had been reviewing tactical options, trying to find some way to beat a fleet 8 times the size of his own. He had not found one, but that did not matter now. He ran to the bridge. Daniel was already there, standing at the tactical display, with Chief Tactical Officer Scott Palmer. How long? Cole asked. They will be in weapons range in 20 minutes, Scott replied. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his concern. They brought more ships than we expected. 134. Cole absorbed the number. 134 against 14. It was almost comical. Any sane commander would retreat. Any sane commander would run. Cole had never been particularly sane. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All ships to battle formation. Launch all fighters. And somebody get me a channel to the enemy commander. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Relentless hummed with power as her weapons charged. Outside, fighters poured from the Horizon's launch bays, forming up in attack patterns. A few minutes later, the communications screen flickered to life. Cole found himself looking at a Kreeth for the first time. They were ugly creatures. Tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like dried mud. Their faces were flat, with small eyes and wide mouths, filled with sharp teeth. They wore armor that looked like it had been welded directly to their bodies. The one on the screen wore more elaborate armor than the others. Gold and red, decorated with symbols that Cole did not recognize. This was the commander. I am Executioner Vex, the Kreeth said. His voice was harsh, like rocks grinding together. You are the Deathworlders. I have heard of your kind. Then you know what we are capable of, Cole replied. Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. I know the stories. I do not believe them. You are soft flesh and weak bones, just like all the others. You will break just as easily. Maybe. But you will have to catch us first. Cole cut the channel. He turned to his crew and smiled. All right. Let us show them what Deathworlders can do. The first engagement happened in the debris field surrounding Selith Prime. Cole had positioned his fleet among the wreckage of the Valorian stations, using the twisted metal as cover. The Kreeth approached in a standard formation. They were confident, almost lazy. They had done this countless times before. They expected the humans to flee or surrender. They were wrong. The Relentless fired first. Her main cannons lit up the darkness, sending streams of superheated plasma into the lead Kreeth cruiser. The enemy ship's shields held for almost 2 seconds before collapsing. The cruiser exploded in a ball of white fire. The Kreeth fleet scattered. They had not expected that. They had not expected the humans to hit that hard. But the humans were just getting started. Scott Palmer coordinated the attack with cold precision. He had studied the Kreeth formation and identified its weaknesses. Their ships were large and powerful, but they were slow. They were designed for species that could not handle rapid acceleration. Humans were not such a species. All ships, Scott ordered. Execute attack pattern Delta. Hit them hard and fast. Do not give them time to regroup. 4-3. With Rehard. In ID. With Rehard. In I way. With Rehard. All. And in Subsum. The human fleet moved like nothing the Kreeth had ever seen. Ships accelerated at 12 gravities, pulling turns that would have killed any other crew. Pilots pushed their fighters to the absolute limit, relying on their Deathworld bodies to survive forces that would turn Valorians into paste. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Price watched from the surface as the battle unfolded in the sky above. He could see the flashes of weapons fire, the bright explosions of dying ships. He could not tell who was winning. Beside him, Chancellor Mirath stood in stunned silence. How? The Valorian asked. How do they move like that? Kevin smiled grimly. Gravity. Earth has 3 times the gravity of your world. Our bodies evolved to handle forces that would crush you. When we accelerate at 12 g, we stay conscious. When we turn at high speed, our blood keeps flowing. We can take punishment that would kill any other species. That is terrifying. Yes, it is. On the bridge of the Relentless, Cole watched his fleet tear through the Kreeth formation. They had destroyed 15 enemy ships in the first 6 minutes of combat. His own fleet had lost 2 fighters and 1 frigate, but the numbers were still against them. Even as they fought, more Kreeth ships moved to surround them. Vex was learning. He was adapting. Sir, Daniel said, they are trying to box us in. Then we do not escape, Cole replied. We push through. Target their flagship. If we take out Vex, the rest might break. That is suicide. That is the job. The Relentless surged forward. Her engines burned at maximum power, driving her straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. The Kreeth tried to stop her. They poured fire into her shields until they glowed red hot, but the Relentless did not stop. On the ground, the situation was equally desperate. The Kreeth had landed troops before the space battle began. They had expected to simply walk into the Valorian cities and take whatever they wanted. They had not expected resistance. Sergeant Lisa Martinez led a squad of Marines into the capital city. Their mission was simple. Find the Kreeth ground forces. Stop them. They found them at the Central Hospital. 200 Kreeth soldiers had taken the building. Thousands of Valorian civilians were trapped inside. Lisa assessed the situation quickly. The Kreeth outnumbered her squad 10-1. They had better positions. They had hostages. A smart commander would have waited for reinforcements. Lisa was not feeling smart. We go in fast and hard, she told her squad. Hit them before they know what is happening. Protect the civilians at all costs. Private Chris Howard nodded. He was young, barely out of training, but he had the look in his eyes. The look that all Deathworlders had when the fighting started. Eager. Ready. They attacked. The Kreeth were not prepared for human close combat. Lisa moved through them like a hurricane. She took a plasma bolt to the shoulder in the first few seconds. The burn was deep. It hurt like nothing she had ever felt. But she kept moving. Her body was designed to keep functioning through pain. Her ancestors had survived wounds that would have killed any other creature. Chris broke his arm when a Kreeth soldier tackled him. He used the broken arm to strangle the creature to death. Then, he picked up a weapon with his good hand and kept fighting. The Valorians in the hospital watched in horror and amazement. These humans, these Deathworlders, would not stay down. They took injuries that should have been fatal and kept fighting. They bled and screamed and laughed, all at the same time. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, every Kreeth soldier was dead. Lisa's squad had taken casualties. 3 wounded, 1 dead. But the hospital was secure. A Valorian doctor approached Lisa. The small being looked up at her with those enormous eyes. The first battle was over. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the Relentless and surveyed the damage. 47 Creeth ships destroyed. His own fleet had lost 3 frigates and dozens of fighters. The surviving enemy ships had retreated, disappearing into hyperspace. But Cole knew the truth. This was not a victory. This was a delay. Executioner Vex was still alive. His flagship had escaped with heavy damage but intact. He would go back to the Kreth homeworld. He would tell them about the humans. And he would return with a much larger force. "How long do we have?" Cole asked. Commander Daniel Wright checked the calculations. "If they go to their nearest staging point, repair their ships, and gather reinforcements, maybe 3 weeks. 4 at most. 3 weeks. It was not enough time. Nothing would be enough time. The Creeth Dominion had thousands of ships. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. No matter how hard humanity fought, the numbers would eventually overwhelm them, unless something changed." Cole walked to the communication station. "Get me a channel to Earth Command. Priority 1. The connection took time. They were far from home, and the signal had to bounce through multiple relay stations. But eventually, the face of Admiral Patricia Blake appeared on the screen. She was the commander of all human military forces. She was also one of the most stubborn people Cole had ever met. "Nathan," she said, "I heard about your little adventure. You engaged a force 8 times your size? We won. You got lucky." Cole nodded. "That is why I am calling. We need reinforcements. Everything you can spare." Patricia was quiet for a moment. Behind her, Cole could see the walls of her office on Earth. Pictures of her family, awards, and medals. A window, showing the blue sky of home. "You are asking me to commit Earth's entire military to defend an alien world," she said. "Yes, a world we just learned about 3 weeks ago. A species we know nothing about." "They asked for help, Patricia. They were dying," we answered. "And now you want to keep answering. Even if it costs us everything." Cole thought about the Valorians. He thought about Chancellor Mirath and the fear in those enormous eyes. He thought about the hospital, full of civilians. He thought about what would happen to them if humanity abandoned them now. "Yes," he said. "That is exactly what I want." Patricia studied him through the screen. They had known each other for 30 years. They had served together, fought together, disagreed more times than either could count. But she trusted him. She always had. "I will bring it to the Security Council," she said. "But I cannot promise anything." "I know. But try. Please." The channel closed. Cole turned away from the screen and found Lieutenant Commander Kevin Price waiting for him. "What do we do now?" Kevin asked. "We prepare. We train the Valorians as best we can. We repair our ships. And we hope that Earth makes the right choice." On the surface of Seleth Prime, the work had already begun. Dr. Ryan Mitchell had set up field hospitals throughout the capital city. He was Earth's best trauma surgeon, a man who had saved lives in war zones across the solar system. But he had never seen injuries like these. The Valorians were fragile in ways that humans could barely comprehend. A fall that would bruise a human could kill a Valorian. A simple cut could lead to fatal infection. Their bodies had evolved in paradise. They had no defenses against violence. Ryan worked around the clock, teaching Valorian doctors human medical techniques. Some of the methods horrified them. Humans routinely performed surgeries that the Valorians considered barbaric. They cut into living bodies. They removed damaged organs. They sealed wounds with heat and fire. But the methods worked. Valorians who should have died began to recover. One evening, a young Valorian doctor named Sarath approached Ryan. She had been watching him work for days, fascinated and disturbed in equal measure. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you stay calm when everything is so Violent. Ryan wiped blood from his hands. He was exhausted. He had not slept in 30 hours. But he smiled at her. Practice, he said. Humans have been hurting each other for our entire history. We have gotten very good at fixing the damage. That is horrible. Yes. It is. But it is also useful. Our violence taught us to heal. Our wars taught us medicine. Every terrible thing we have done has taught us something valuable. Sareth considered this. You are strange creatures, I know. But we are here, and we are helping. That has to count for something. Meanwhile, engineer Patricia Blake was leading repair crews across the damaged orbital stations. She was a practical woman who solved problems by working harder than anyone else. Her crews followed her because she never asked them to do anything she would not do herself. The Valorian engineers watched her with a mixture of awe and concern. She worked 18-hour shifts without stopping. She climbed through wreckage with her bare hands. She ignored injuries that would have hospitalized any Valorian. You will kill yourself, one of them told her. Patricia laughed. Humans are hard to kill. We evolved on a planet that tried to murder us every single day. Our bodies learned to keep going long past the point of exhaustion. But why? Why push yourself so hard? Because people are counting on me. Because there is work to be done. Because stopping is not an option. The Valorian did not understand. His species had never needed to push themselves. They had lived in comfort and safety for thousands of years. The concept of sacrifice was alien to them. Patricia saw the confusion in his eyes and softened slightly. Look, she said. Where I come from, we have a saying. When things get hard, you dig deeper. You find strength you did not know you had. You keep going because giving up means death. That is how humans work. That is why we survive. And the Kreth? Patricia's expression hardened. The Kreth have never met anything like us. They have conquered species that gave up. Species that surrendered. Species that did not know how to fight. But humans, we never stop. We never surrender. We will fight until there is nothing left of us. And even then, we will probably find a way to keep fighting. Back in the capital city, Chancellor Mirath was having a similar conversation with Admiral Cole. Your people confuse me, Mirath said. They were walking through the ruins of the city, surrounded by the sounds of reconstruction. You are clearly dangerous. You are clearly capable of great violence. And yet, you came to save us. Cole nodded. Humans are complicated. That is not an answer. No, I suppose it is not. Cole stopped walking and turned to face the Valorian leader. Let me try again. My species evolved in constant danger. We learned to fight. We learned to kill. But we also learned something else. We learned that survival is easier in groups. We learned to protect each other. We learned that helping others helps ourselves. So your kindness is selfish? Sometimes. But sometimes it is just who we are. Human the Kreth, Armada filled the sky. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the Relentless and counted the enemy ships. 312. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, destroyers. Enough firepower to reduce Seleth Prime to a burned-out husk. At the center of the formation was the largest ship Cole had ever seen. A massive dreadnought, bristling with weapons, covered in the gold and red colors of the Kreth Emperor. This was not just a military operation. This was personal. Sir, Lieutenant Amy Harris said, we are receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship. Put it through. The screen flickered to life. This time, it was not Executioner Vex who appeared. It was someone else. Someone older. Someone more dangerous. I am Emperor Krath, the alien said. His voice was deep and cold, like the rumble of distant thunder. Ruler of the Kreth Dominion, conqueror of 147 worlds. You are the Deathworlders, who humiliated my fleet. Cole kept his face neutral. Your fleet attacked innocent people. You delayed them. A mistake I intend to correct personally. With 300 ships against 14? You must be very scared of us. Krath's eyes narrowed. He was not used to being mocked. I am not scared of you. I am curious. No species has ever fought back against the Kreth. No species has ever killed so many of my soldiers. I want to understand what makes you different before I destroy you. Cole considered his options. He could try to negotiate. He could try to delay. But he knew it would be pointless. Krath had not come to talk. He had come to conquer. You want to know what makes us different? Cole said. I will show you. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, he ordered. Prepare for battle. We hold the line until reinforcements arrive. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. Reinforcements might not come. Earth might have decided that 14 ships and 2,000 lives were an acceptable loss. They might be alone, but no one complained. No one argued. They simply went to work. The Kreth attacked in waves. The first wave was probing. 50 ships, testing the human defenses, looking for weaknesses. Cole let them come close, then unleashed everything he had. The wave broke against his fleet like water against rock. The second wave was heavier. 100 ships, pressing from multiple directions at once. The humans fought back with everything they had. Fighters swarmed through the enemy formation, too fast and too agile for the Kreth gunners to track. The Relentless carved a path of destruction through the center of the attack, but the losses mounted. The frigate Valiant took a direct hit and exploded. The carrier Horizon lost her forward launch bays. Fighters fell by the dozens, their pilots sacrificing themselves to buy a few more seconds. On the surface, Sergeant Lisa Martinez led the ground defense. The Kreth had landed troops in overwhelming numbers. Thousands of soldiers, supported by armored vehicles and air support. They advanced through the city. In a relentless tide, Lisa and her Marines fought them at every corner. They set ambushes in ruined buildings. They turned streets into kill zones. They used every trick they knew, every bit of training, every ounce of determination. It was not enough. We cannot hold them, Private Chris Howard said. His arm was still in a cast from the previous battle. He was bleeding from a wound in his leg, but he was still fighting. There are too many. Lisa knew he was right. The math was simple. They had 300 Marines against 10,000 Kreth soldiers. Even Deathworlders could not beat those odds. But she refused to give up. Then we make them pay for every inch, she said. We make them bleed. We make them fear. And when we finally fall, we make sure they remember us. Chris nodded. There was no fear in his eyes. Just acceptance. Just resolve. They fell back to the hospital district, the same place they had fought before. Thousands of civilians were sheltered there, too weak or too injured to evacuate. If the Kreth reached them, they would be slaughtered. Lisa set up her final defensive line. She knew it would not hold. But she also knew that running was not an option. These people were counting on her. She would not abandon them. The Kreth came. In orbit, the battle reached its climax. Admiral Cole watched as his fleet was slowly overwhelmed. The Relentless was the last major ship still fighting. Her shields were failing. Her hull was breached in a dozen places. Half her crew was dead or wounded, but she was still moving, still fighting. Sir, Commander Daniel Wright said. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Enemy flagship is approaching. Direct engagement in 2 minutes. Cole looked at the tactical display. Emperor Krath's dreadnought was cutting through the debris field, heading straight for the Relentless. Behind it, the rest of the Krath fleet was closing in for the kill. This was it. The end. Cole took a breath. He thought about Earth, about his family, about all the people who would never know what happened here today. Then he smiled. Helm, he said. Set course for the enemy flagship. Maximum acceleration. Sir? You heard me. We are going to ram them. The bridge crew exchanged looks. Then, one by one, they nodded. They understood. If they were going to die, they would die fighting. The Relentless surged forward. Her engines screamed as they pushed beyond their design limits. Warning lights flashed across every console. The ship shook and groaned as the structure struggled to hold together. The Kreth saw them coming. The dreadnought opened fire with everything it had. Plasma bolts tore into the Relentless. Explosions ripped through her decks. Bulkheads collapsed. Fires spread through corridors. But she kept coming. Cole gripped the arms of his command chair. The bridge was filled with smoke and the screams of the wounded. He could feel the ship dying beneath him, but he kept his eyes on the enemy. Almost there, he whispered. Almost there. And then, at the last possible moment, something happened. The sensors detected new contacts. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace. Human ships. Carriers. Battleships. Destroyers. An entire fleet. Arriving just in time, Cole stared at the display in disbelief. He counted 6 carrier groups, 43 warships, hundreds of fighters already launching from their bays. The reinforcements had arrived. Admiral Patricia Blake's voice crackled through the speakers. Nathan, you stubborn fool. Did you really think we were going to let you have all the fun? Cole laughed. It hurt to laugh. Everything hurt. But he could not help himself. Better late than never, he managed to say. Fall back. Let us handle this. No, we finish this together. The battle changed in an instant. The Kreth had expected to crush the humans. Instead, they found themselves facing a fleet twice the size of their own. Humanity had committed everything. Every ship, every fighter, every soldier. And they were angry. The new arrivals tore into the Kreth formation with savage fury. They had seen the damage done to the Relentless. They had heard the desperate calls for help. They had come expecting to find their comrades dead. Instead, they found them fighting. Still fighting. Refusing to die. It inspired them. It enraged them. And they channeled that emotion into the most devastating attack the galaxy had ever seen. On the ground, the tide turned just as dramatically. Lisa heard the roar of engines overhead. She looked up and saw human dropships descending through the smoke. Reinforcements. Thousands of them. Marines. Tanks. Artillery. Everything they needed. The Kreth ground forces were caught between the original defenders and the new arrivals. They fought back, but they were surrounded. Outnumbered. Outmatched. For the first time in their history, the Kreth knew what it felt like to be prey. Lisa sat down against a wall. Her body was broken. She had taken wounds that should have killed her. But she was still breathing. Still alive. Chris dropped down beside her. We made it. For weeks, the skies above Seleth Prime had been filled with explosions and weapons fire and the screams of dying ships. Now, there was nothing. Just the quiet hum of human vessels patrolling the empty space where an empire had been broken. Admiral Cole sat in the medical bay of the USS Relentless. His ship was barely functional. Her hull was held together by emergency repairs and sheer stubbornness. Half her crew was dead. The other half was wounded in some way, but they had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. A medic was treating the burns on Cole's hands. He had not noticed them during the battle. He had not noticed much of anything except the enemy. Now, in the quiet aftermath, the pain was starting to catch up with him. Admiral, the medic said, you need rest. Real rest. In a hospital, not on a dying ship. Cole shook his head. Later. There is still work to do. Sir, with respect, you have done enough. Let someone else handle it. Cole looked at the young man. He was tired. More tired than he had ever been in his life. But he could not stop. Not yet. A few more hours, he said. Then I will rest. The medic sighed, but did not argue. He had learned that arguing with Deathworlders was pointless. They did what they wanted, regardless of what made sense. On the surface of Selith Prime, the celebrations had begun. The Valorians filled the streets of their damaged cities, cheering and singing and crying with relief. The nightmare was over. The Kreth were gone. Their world was saved. But they did not celebrate alone. Human soldiers walked among them, accepting thanks they did not know how to handle. Marines who had fought through impossible odds found themselves surrounded by tiny blue aliens who wanted to touch them, to thank them, to simply be near the beings who had saved their lives. Sergeant Lisa Martinez sat on the steps of the hospital she had defended twice. Her injuries had been treated. Her broken bones had been set. She should have been resting, but she could not make herself leave. Chancellor Mirith found her there. The Valorian leader was smaller than she remembered. Or maybe she just looked at him differently now. He was no longer a stranger. He was someone she had bled for. Someone she would have died for. "Sergeant," Mirith said. "I wanted to thank you personally," Lisa shrugged. "Just doing my job? No, you did more than that. You protected my people when you had every reason to run. You fought when you had every reason to surrender. You showed us what courage looks like." Melanie. Lisa was quiet for a moment. She thought about the battle, the fear, the pain, the moment when she had been certain she was going to die. "I was scared," she admitted. "The whole time. I thought we were not going to make it. But you kept fighting." "Yeah, I did." Mirith tilted his head, a gesture Lisa had learned meant confusion. "Why? If you were scared, why did you not run?" Lisa thought about the question. It was hard to explain, hard to put into words. "Because running was not an option," she finally said. "Because there were people counting on me. Because giving up is not something we do. Even when you are afraid? Especially when we are afraid. Fear is not weakness. Fear is information. It tells you that something matters enough to be afraid of. And if something matters that much, you fight for it." Mirath considered this. Then he sat down beside her on the steps. For a long time, they sat in silence, watching the crowds celebrate. In orbit, the human fleet was reorganizing. Admiral Patricia Blake had taken command of operations. She directed repair crews and medical teams and supply ships with the same efficiency she brought to everything. The crisis was over, but the work was just beginning. She found time to visit Cole in the medical bay. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks. You look worse." Patricia laughed. They had known each other too long for polite lies. "You know, the Security Council almost said no?" They debated for 18 hours before finally agreeing to send reinforcements. What changed their minds? Your first battle. When word got back that 14 ships had beaten 130, people paid attention. They realized this was not just about saving aliens. It was about proving what humanity could do. Cole nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. Politics was always part of the equation. "And now?" he asked. "Now everything changes. The Galactic Council wants to talk to us. Dozens of species have sent messages expressing interest in alliances. The Kreth Dominion is in chaos. Their emperor is dead, their fleet is shattered, and their subject species are starting to rebel. We broke an empire. We broke an empire." And the galaxy noticed. Cole leaned back against his pillow. He thought about what that meant. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long. Now they were part of something bigger, something complicated. "Are we ready for this?" he asked. Patricia smiled. "Are we ever ready for anything? We adapt. We learn. We survive. That is what we do." 3 days later, Chancellor Mirath addressed the Galactic Council. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and wide. Some had tentacles or wings or scales or feathers. It was the most diverse gathering in the history of the galaxy, and they were all listening to a Valorian talk about humans. "We called them monsters," Mirath said. His voice carried through the chamber, translated into 1,000 languages. We heard the stories about Deathworlds, about the creatures that survived on planets of crushing gravity and toxic atmospheres. We imagined beasts, without compassion, predators, without mercy. He paused, looking around the chamber. We were wrong. The humans came when we called. They fought when they could have run. They died to protect people they had never met. They showed us that strength and kindness are not opposites. They showed us that the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy can also be the most caring. I have seen human soldiers carry wounded Valorians to safety. I have seen human doctors work until they collapsed to save alien lives. I have seen human engineers rebuild our cities with their bare hands. They call themselves Deathworlders. But that is not what they are. They are guardians, protectors. They are what the galaxy needs. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, applause began to spread. Species that had never agreed on anything agreed on this. Humanity was different. Humanity was special. Humanity was exactly what the galaxy had been waiting for. In his quarters aboard the Relentless, Admiral Cole watched the speech on a small screen. He was finally resting, finally letting his body heal. But he could not miss this moment. When the applause ended, he turned off the screen and stared at the ceiling. He thought about everything that had happened. The distress call, the long journey, the battles, the sacrifices, the victory. They had come to save one world. They had ended up changing the entire galaxy. He wondered what came next. Alliances, conflicts, discoveries. The future was uncertain. It always had been. But one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer alone. They had seized their place among the stars, and they would never let it go. Cole closed his eyes and smiled. The galaxy had feared the Deathworlds for millennia. Now they understood the truth. Deathworlds did not create monsters. They created heroes, and humanity was just getting started. Yeah. Lisa closed her eyes. We made it. Above them, the human fleet completed its victory. The Kreeth armada shattered. Ships fled in every direction, their formation completely broken. And at the center of the chaos, Emperor Krath's dreadnought burned. The battle was over. Humanity had won. Form bonds easily. We see someone in trouble, and we want to help. It does not always make sense. It is not always logical, but it is real. Mirith was quiet for a long moment. Then, he said something that surprised Cole. I was afraid of you. When we sent that message, I thought we were calling monsters. I thought if you came, you might be worse than the Kreeth. But you are not monsters. You are something I do not have a word for. Cole smiled. Guardians, Mirith repeated. Yes, I think that is the right word. 3 weeks passed. The repairs continued. The training continued. And then, one morning, the sensors detected something. Dozens of ships dropping out of hyperspace. Then hundreds. The Kreeth had returned, and they had brought an army. There was blood on Lisa's face. Her shoulder was burned black. She was swaying on her feet. You need medical attention, the doctor said. Lisa shook her head. Later. There are more of them out there. More civilians to protect. But you are injured. Lisa smiled. Her teeth were stained with blood. I am human, she said. We do not stop. She turned and led her squad back into the streets. Behind her, the Valorians watched in stunned silence. They had called for monsters to save them. They had not expected the monsters to be heroes, contain contradictions. We are violent and gentle, cruel and kind, destructive and creative. We are whatever we need to be. He stood up, towering over the Valorian Chancellor once again. Right now, we need to be warriors. So, that is what we will be. Above them, the fleet prepared for battle. 72 hours until the enemy arrived. 72 hours, to turn a group of frightened refugees into something that could survive. It was not enough time. But it would have to do. Sir, Amy said, her voice shaking slightly. We are receiving a transmission from the surface. Put it through. The same desperate voice from before filled the bridge. You came. You actually came. Please, please hurry. They are coming back. The Kreeth are coming back. Cole straightened in his chair. His jaw tightened. His eyes hardened. All ships, he said, his voice calm and steady. Battle stations. We have work to do. The fleet moved forward. Toward the dying world. Toward the enemy. Toward whatever came next. Humanity had answered the call. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same.